Hey guys, my name is Vaulsc. Hope that you are doing well. Over the last week, Cosmoflot have been putting out a video every day in promotion of the new edition of Infinity the Game, N4. It's the 4th edition coming out at the end of September. And we've all been watching the videos and the photo dumps and everything and just taking in all of the hints and spoilers and the new information. And now it's reached the weekend. The promo week has been done, and I thought I might just take the time to talk in this video about the new things that have come out and just generally do a bit of a react, a bit of a discussion. So feel free to sit back and relax and just put me in your earbuds. I'm not going to be showing anything on screen that you haven't seen before, so feel free to listen to me talk about this while you're painting or in the car or whatever you normally like to do. Now, next point on the agenda before we get into the main discussion, I have completed the TTS League Season 1 and 2, then we had our amazing Operation Wraithstar campaign, and a whole lot of you guys are still asking me to put on more TTS events in the meantime. Like, what is wrong with you? Maybe you need to get that looked at. Sounds like a serious case of Infinity addiction, but I will be announcing what we will call the Interim Casual Brawl. It will be an event for TTS that I'm announcing on Monday, and just looking at the calendar really quick, I believe it will kick off on the 21st of August, then it will run for a number of weeks until N4 comes out, and the basic idea is just to give you guys some last games of competitive N3 before it all changes, give you something to do, because everybody's still in lockdown, let's face it. So everybody will sign up into a big roster. I'll split the roster up into 3 different groups of expert players, intermediate players, and novice players, and there'll be 3 different tournaments going on for each pool, and that way it'll be more likely that people will play opponents of a similar skill level to them, which is the main focus of this very casual event. So look out for my announcement on Monday about that. There'll still be plenty more N3 that you can play. No variants. We won't be restricting you to any particular size of army list, so get that off your chests, play some last games. Okay? Now, before we get into the guts of the discussion and the reacts and everything like that, the most important thing that I will say for this whole video is that N4 isn't actually out yet. The promos have come out, but the actual game hasn't come out. We don't have access to the army builder or the PDF, the rules. We don't have the full picture. We don't have that context. So, for everything that I'm saying today, it's subject to change. There is context we may not know about. We do know some of the small things. We know about the change to the crit mechanic. We know the changes to this and that. We've seen some sectorial profiles and breakdowns, but what will really matter is the context. What are those things going to be going up against? What other things can they have that we don't know about? So, just hold off on all of the conclusions and the mass judgments. Don't flock to be buying new models or selling your armies or anything like that just yet, because we just don't have the full picture, and I want everybody to bear that in mind. If there's only one piece of information you take away from this video, please let it be that piece of information in particular, okay? Alright, it's time for us to settle in and talk about the news. Let's just go straight to the one that seems to be causing the most noise, and that would be this new idea here where the combat groups are 2 combat groups and 15 units the maximum allowed in any army list. So the reactions to this have been mixed. As you guys know, there's this tournament format called Tactical Window. Back in the year 2017, I came up with a custom mission called Tactical Window. They liked the idea of the name, not the mission, so they stole the name, but they're welcome to it. Plenty more good ideas where that came from. And now, what's happened is they are looking at making that the standard thing in competitive play for N4. So everybody will always be restricted to 15 units. Alright, so no longer will you be able to have your 20 model spam of Ariadne where you've got 10 full groups and, you know, it's all chasseurs and Ermendinos and maybe some Foxtrots and volunteers, and there's a Spetsnaz HMG, and you just filled out to 20. You can't do it with Hakislam either. You can't take, you know, your 3-day Lamis and your 4 Gazimotiwas and your Camille's and your Flashbots and your Nafatuns and your Ghulam Doctor, and you're having like 20 orders right there. We're still packing some punch. They are going to be making everybody restricted to 15 orders. So, what do we think? What are our opinions? Let's just begin by saying that the optimistic view of this, the positive camp for this, is that it will stop you having to endure the experience of facing those massive 20 order lists. And it's not just Hakislam and Ariadne. Yuching can do it very competently as well, and of course Nomads can, with, you know, your Morans and your Jaguars and your Morlocks and your Transductazons, and yes, you splash out on your 1 intruder HMG, but you can get to a full 20 orders without too much trouble, your puppet bots and your pupnicks and all of that. So, there's always like a dreaded feeling in my stomach when I know that I'm facing something like that, and I've shown up to the party with like a Svalharema list or a Shazvasti list, which is sort of 13, 14 orders, and I know that I'm just hitting this huge wall of enemy models, enemy orders, and I know that even though I've taken expensive, powerful stuff that can beat some of their models 1-to-1, it's going to be so easy for them to trade up. Hakislam gets the first turn, Daylamis are just charging in and blowing things up that cost way more than a Daylami, and the Gazimativas are sitting in the middle of the table. I can't move in with my tags and my heavy infantry, and their impersonators just taking something out, and recovering from that is just so difficult. So there's a part of me that looks forward to not really having to struggle against that as much. And when I see a lot of posts on Facebook and forums and so forth and Discord from people who are like, yeah, I like the sound of that, I think it's generally the camp who kind of struggle against those larger order pools, right? So I do want to say that this change, restricting to 15 units, is not inherently impossible. It's not unworkable. It does have potential. You can make a good war game around this. Okay, so it's not just a categorical no from me. Like this is a very viable way to play Infinity. All right, but we do need to now turn to the other side. All right, and just before we do, imagine you are in a political debate, in a political discussion, and you're hearing about a policy that you don't like, but you do have to admit that that policy makes life better for a lot of people. That's kind of how you might feel about this as well. Even though you may not like this restriction, there are a lot of people out there who are going to be more enthusiastic about Infinity as a result of it, and we do have to tread carefully with our opinions and respect that. I think that's a really big deal. On the other side of the camp, though, there are people who are saying that this is a lazy fix to a greater problem. The greater problem being that super spam lists are too powerful and are the only way to play factions like Ariadne, Hakislam a lot of the time in terms of high level competition ITS, and that it's just band-aid being slapped on something without enough due consideration and thought. And you know what? Those people are absolutely correct. To use a bit of a forced analogy, remember what happened when they brought out tactical awareness going to all of the tags. All right, we've now had time to play with that. We've hadn't had time to study it, and retrospectively we can commentate on whether that was a really good fix or not. The idea behind that was that tags weren't quite being seen enough. They weren't considered to be competitive enough by a lot of the community. Whether or not that's true or not is a matter of debate. A lot of people think the tags are very good. In my opinion, I simply think that some of the tags are very good and competitive, notably the Avatar, Cutter, Sphinx, whereas a lot of the tags aren't. The Zeodron is not, the Guija is not, the Gecko is not, the Iguana is not. And when they brought out that sweeping change, and they go, okay, let's just make tags better, what they did is they made the Avatar a whole lot better, even though it was great. They made the Cutter a whole lot better, even though it was great. They made the Sphinx a whole lot better, even though it was great. But they didn't succeed in making the Gecko playable. They didn't succeed in making the Guija playable. They didn't succeed in making the Zeodron playable, okay? So my point in my analogy is here that with this restriction, just cropping everything to 15 units for all armies across the board, they're trying to fix that overall problem, but the result will simply be that the army lists that are already in the game that are doing very, very well with 15 units or less are going to be better, because now they don't have to compete with their peers and their counterparts in other factions which do use 20 orders, which are very strong. But you end up hurting the factions that kind of rely on it, specifically Ariadne and Hakislam, without really giving them anything. Okay? So that point has been made. Let's continue the discussion, because there's another point to be made here. When we were watching the seminar, Bostria did say that Hakislam and Ariadne will get things to make up for that. All right, so let's have a little bit of faith and let's hold out for that, and let's see what they bring to the table. Because where I'm going with this really is that in this discussion, I'm okay with the 15 unit restriction so long as the game balance is fixed around it, so long as Ariadne and Hakislam are still really interesting factions that have a variety of different ways you can play them, and the same goes for other factions as well. If you are going to make that restriction, all you need to do is fix all of those things. The problem is that I've just said that we should have faith in Corvus Belli, when in fact I don't actually really have faith in them to do that good a job with game balance when it comes to granular stuff like this. Alright? This is the part in the video where I get most critical of them, which is always the fun part. You guys know what I'm like. Just to pause. Bostria and Hellois, I know they watch my videos. They've told me they watch the videos. Hi, guys. Love those dudes. Hellois, when he first reached out to me on email, he offered a free ITS code for our tournament league online on TTS. I had to turn that down for other reasons, but I was extremely grateful for it. And he also offered us several hundred euros worth of prizes, which we did accept, and Cavrion and Dementor and the guys that did well in ITS Season 2 apparently are getting some free stuff from the Corvus Belli website, so extremely grateful to these guys. Like, I really love the dude. And then you've got Carlos, aka Bostria. Every time he posted a video this week, he was jumping into our secret Discord chat for our 3D modeling team and chatting to us about it. He provided a whole bunch of photo galleries for us to render. So right now, if you guys remember watching the bat rep between Star Martyr and Yu Ching, we've now got some of those renders that he used for the bat rep in TTS. You can play with them, and that's thanks to Carlos. I mean, these are generous guys. These are nice guys, and when I beat down and bash on Corvus Belli, and when I criticize the company and so forth, I'm doing that from the standpoint of a critic and a commentator. It's not about them as human beings, and I hope everybody understands that, all right? But when I encounter things that I think are stupid, and I encounter things that I think are incompetent, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to be absolutely merciless. So let's wait and see what happens, but I think that restricting combat groups to 15 units and just leaving it at that, terrible. It's not the way to go. If I was in charge, if it was up to me, I would be going into the factions and the profiles, and I'd be going, right, okay, Mr. Morlock over here, you can cost a little bit more. Gazi Motiwa, you can have a drop in ballistic skill. I'd be making these little changes. Flash Pulse Spot may be, a little bit more expensive, and I'd be tweaking things so that taking 20 models, I should say, not just orders, in Hakislam or Nomads or Ariadne isn't the only way to build a really competent ITS list. But at the moment, it kind of is. Like, that's the thing. When I've been watching dudes like Cavrion or Estagon, guys in the TTS leagues, I'm not seeing like your Mobile Brigadas and Taskmasters and Geckos. I'm seeing 2 Transductizons. I'm seeing a bunch of Morlocks. I'm seeing the Pupniks. I'm seeing the Puppet Bots. I'm seeing Jaguars sometimes. I'm seeing like a huge number of orders. That's the most competitive way to play. When I look at the Ariadne camp, it's the same thing. All right, but these are problems that are fixable. Like, everybody who plays competitively and shows up and studies the games knows which units are overpowered and what it would take to actually tweak them in the right direction. Corvus Belli, as much as I love them, they don't show up and play in ITS events themselves. The people who design the rules, they're not like really high-level competitive players. They focus on the marketing, the packaging, and the promo, as they probably should, and the sculpting of models, which are amazing. So what I feel like we need is a bit more of a bridge between the people who are designing the rules and making these sweeping changes and the people who are winning ITS events and playing very competitively in real life in ITS. And we need to have a bit more conversation about where the actual problems are coming from, which units are too powerful and which ones aren't powerful enough. And then you go through and you go back after you've nerfed a few of the things that need nerfing, and you find units like the Azrael and the Sekban and the the alpha seed, and you give them buffs, right? And you make them a little bit more viable, so that sometimes people are going, okay, well, I am going to take a Hakistan list with 15 models in it because I really want to build it around this alpha seed, and he's really powerful and strong, and I'm going to build my list in the same way that somebody might build their list around Achilles or Shishkin, and are naturally coming in at under 15 orders anyway, right? I mean, at the moment, you go over to Vanilla LF and you take Achilles, and then you've got a chain of command for him and Strategos level 1, so he can spend 10 orders as a lieutenant even after he's had the order stripped from his pool. And then you've got a secondary group with 5 models in it, probably with the super overpowered posthumans. And you've still got your Liberto in there, and a list like that, it's just laughing all the way to the bank when they see a change like this, because normally you're sort of on a level playing field and you're sort of trying to compete with your 20 order Nomad list and your 20 order Hakslam list and your 20 order Ariadne list, but now you don't have to, so they're going to have to fix that imbalance that arises, and it's not going to be easy, right? So we definitely need to see more than just this. There will need to be a lot of changes in the actual profiles of N4. And so far, the profiles that are coming out that we're seeing aren't massive departures. I'm getting a little bit worried that we actually won't see very much change in N4, and we'll be left with some of the fundamental flaws and problems that we've had for the last 5 years. Maybe we'll be sticking with them for many more years to come. That remains to be seen. But as I keep saying, we don't have the full picture yet. We're going to be waiting for end of September. We're going to be playing our casual league in the meantime, N3, and we're going to see what happens. All right, so that is what I think of the 15-unit restriction. Jury's still kind of out. It does look pretty bad, though. Alrighty, let's go and talk about something else. So, a few more of the mechanics that are coming through. You can spend a command token to deploy a unit in suppressive fire state. This won't be huge. The funny thing is that this is something which is helpful against big order spam lists. So really bringing in more stuff like this is preferable to seeing more stuff like the 15-unit restriction. I must say that when I started Infinity back in 2015, I was playing a couple of community mod versions of the rules, and they already had this at that time, and that's like 5 years ago. So it's not a huge deal. I think it's fine. It's just not really game breaking, and I don't find it particularly eyebrow raising either. The change with multispectral visors, so MSV1 can now see through smoke. It just has that -6 penalty, which I think is fine. Smoke has been really powerful for a really long time, and again, this is another change that sort of starts to rein in those lists which just have your 4 Morlocks or your 4 Gazmoti. We're throwing smoke everywhere, and some factions just can't really do too much against that, and this gives you a bit more playback to that. It definitely helps Ariadne, who previously couldn't take any MSV2. Same with Tunguska. That Grand Zone Link team suddenly looks pretty cool. One thing I'm a little bit disappointed by is that with the MSV3, they decided not to revert that back to the old days of, I think, N2 or N1, where you were able to just directly shoot at a camo marker without having to discover it first. The categorical shift between having camo marker undiscovered versus discovered, and that taking a short skill from your opponent, takes some time to get in a position to see it first. I feel like that is so strong with marker state that even when you have MSV3, you still don't feel completely countered by that piece of equipment, whereas you would if it was able to automatically shoot the marker. The Gizmo kit, I think, is pretty cool. This just continues to help models which have remote presence. Unfortunately, if they still have tags like the Guisha, the Gecko with manned, that don't have remote presence state, can't go into multiple levels of unconscious, it kind of exacerbates the problem a little bit. Hopefully they are making more stuff remote presence. At the moment, this is apparently a piece of equipment that will still damage your model if you fail the check, so you've still got to be careful about that. Very similar to the Medikit, but for tags and for remotes. Casanova, the NOC operative, the NOC operative. So this is a character that has some really good robust stats, but doesn't really have a long-range gun. Starts in deployment zone, 33 points. Sorry, it doesn't start in deployment zone. It's got 4 deployment level 2. So if you've got a way of getting up there and doing a lot of damage, I don't see what's wrong with him. We don't really fully know yet what a submachine gun does in N4. If the stats haven't changed, that's a little bit interesting, but because they've messed with some of the points that on models that have SMGs, I suspect that the profile of the SMG has changed a little bit. We just don't yet know yet, and I think that's a big deal because that's the main weapon for this character. He looks pretty cool. He seems like a a Vaulsc kind of style of model that you charge into the enemy with, but I wouldn't want him to be another Hulang basically that gets left at home every time because he doesn't really have the best way of getting value for you. They also say this is the N3 version of the troop profile, so maybe it's just a projection of sort of the direction he's going to be going in. Is he even playable in N3? I mean, why would you release an N3 character right now? Okay, I think sort of what I may have missed here is that I think they're showing the difference between the N3 and the N4 model. So the N3 version has these abilities, and then they are unstacking and denesting the rules basically. So when you look through, you can see what does CC attack and dodge do for deployment plus 8 inches instead of out to that thing. But everything I said about him still stands. We don't know how effective he is until we see what the submachine gun does. Okay, so the rule's coming out late September, which is another reason why we're having this interim casual brawl on TTS. If you'd like to sign up for that, hit me up in Discord and watch my video that comes out Monday. We'll have a Google form for you guys to sign up, and we'll get you playing some similarly skilled opponents, which will be really cool. Let's go through White Banner now. So we've got Octavia Grimsdottir, Icebreaker Harpooner. She's got a Burst 2 missile launcher. This +1R, I believe, is the Spanish notation, but it's +1 burst. So I feel like this is the kind of thing where if you put her out just as an ARO piece, somebody's going to throw down smoke and shoot at her with an MSV2 unit and just kill her, or some bulleteer is going to show up and just blast her. And if shock still works in the same way, like Yorushi through smoke is really going to wreck her, and then you'll really regret the 28 points. Whereas you look at something like Major Luna, which starts in camo state, is a little bit better, and also she shuts down McMurrah. We don't know how McMurrah's changing, we don't know how total immunity's changing, we don't know about viral ammunition. There could be some changes to those things, but just looking at her right off the bat doesn't look to be particularly strong because there are ways to counter her. Tao Wu now works for White Banner. I don't have anything new to say about this guy. This guy's come out so recently that you can expect his changes from N3 to N4 to not be very significant. I don't think that he's really worth his points. If all you're really getting is counterintelligence, you're paying too much for that. And getting him into close combat can be awkward if he's starting from your deployment zone. If you can somehow trick your opponent into attacking him with some sort of impersonator, thinking he's your lieutenant, you might be able to get the surprise on him. If McMurrah jumps into him thinking he's something squishy, and then you get him with the viral pistol, that could be a bit of a payoff, but it's a bit corner case, it's a bit too situational for my liking. Got Shona Carano, Special Instructor, and Aristaya, Swordmaster. The model's very interesting. I don't really like her hair. The sword is extremely big. She's a close combat super specialist. But again, what is the vehicle for delivering her into close combat? She doesn't have marker state. She starts in your deployment zone. Super jump does give her a little bit of mobility. But if this is the kind of model that's just walking her way down the board to attack something, what if you get hit by a flash pulse? What if you have to get around a TR bot or a TO sniper shows up and shoots you? I'm not seeing any mimetism or ODD. So first glance, model doesn't look particularly powerful. John Hawkwood has been around for a while in N3, and I really like him in my Yuching setups because I can back him up with this massive army which has got all these other things that it can do. However, 15 order restriction, 15 unit restriction may put a bit of a dampener on those plans. It'll mean that I'm probably investing more in my point man, meaning that I'm probably more likely to take a hack Tau or a tag or whatever it may be in the future. So John might not be the thing in Yuching, but in White Banner he definitely seems pretty powerful given that he can wildcard. And seeing a guy like this in a 5-man link team, presuming that the link teams work the same, Pretty nice. I mean, Red Fury going up to Burst 5, Blitzskull 16, presumably, if things haven't changed. The Point Man of the Link team having Mimetism, Shock Immunity, all that kind of thing, looks pretty good. So I suspect he will be the thing to take within White Banner for sure. A lot of people seem to be saying, oh yeah, Corvus Belli, it's another NWI one wound model with shock immunity. We're seeing this a lot. One point that I really want to remind people of is that with the crit mechanic changing, these units that have one wound and NWI and shock immunity are kind of in a little bit more trouble now, because if you come around the corner and you fight that TR bot and it gets a crit, you'd duck back out of cover and you'd have a wound left because of NWI and you'd be fine. In N4, a crit means you take 2 armor saves. If John's taking 2 armor saves and flubs them both, he's removed. You don't have a chance to revive him anymore. So that's what I want you guys to think of, all of these models coming out now that have NWI and shock immunity. The new crit mechanic is actually particularly harsh on those models because the risk is far greater for losing your models, whereas a 2-wound model like Shishkin, or 3 wounds like Achilles, or anything that has remote presence and an engineer near to it, doesn't really care. You're still going to be doing the same tactic with your Q-drone, poking out, shooting, coming back. If you die, repair yourself, do it again. 99.9% chance you're going to destroy them by the end of the turn if you put enough orders into it. Whereas a lot of these units you're seeing seem to be quite flimsy, and I feel like that level of risk being introduced in the game might not sit well with a few people after we're a few months in, so do watch out for that. I think there might be a lot of unhappy people out there. Link team wise, this actually does look like a good sectorial, and I say that because if you want to, you can have a nice cheap team of Fusiliers, and then you can add John Hawkwood to that, and it suddenly becomes a really good Link team for pushing out later in the game, and in the early game you are just banking up your orders and you're able to do a lot of stuff, which I think is really powerful. The other alternative is to make a Link team of Varangian guards, so those guys can be added as well. Let me just have a quick read. Something about joining them. So they can duo and they can special. Let me just quickly have a read. There's a way of grouping them up. I think that John Hawkwood can join them as a duo, which is kind of cool because he brings along a smoke thrower. Here it is, special fire team. Shona Karana could be part of a fire team of Kaplans or Varangian guards. So you could take a fire team with 1 Shona, 1 John Hawkwood, and 1 Varangian guard, and that's pretty cool. I think your core fire team is going to be the Fusiliers though, because we've seen that work time and time again, and unless the rules are fundamentally changed, I suspect that will be the main way to go. And the great thing about that too is you can put an Orc Trooper with either an HMG, my preference, or a Feuerbark, and suddenly you're actually getting a very efficient Link team in terms of the aggressive shooting or the AROs. So I find that's very, very powerful. Liang Kai can join Kaplans, that's pretty cool. So it seems like there are some decent options here. And a lot of the specific units they have for the various roles are very good, which I like. So Tiger Soldier, one of the best drop troopers in the game, so that's your drop trooper, right? For arrows, a Nis by himself, great if you're not using like an Orc with Feuerbark in the Link team, for example. Guilang Skirmishers, one of the best midfield trainers in the game. Varangian Guards, one of the best warband smoke throwers. The only thing this is really missing is like your 5-point smoke thrower in the form of like your Shaolin Monk or your Galwegian, for example. So that's only a small weakness here. In general, looks like a really strong sectorial. We don't know for sure, though, is it going to be as oppressive as Varuna or Shazvasti may have been in N3? Can it achieve as much as the vanilla factions can with their Libertos and all their mercenaries? That remains to be seen. We can't yet say this is a super strong sectorial until we see what the other ones can do. But if you just slap this into N3 right now, yeah, it'd definitely be in the top half. It'd be one of the better sectorials that you could play. For sure. Love the fact that they use Kaplans, and the fact that Yuching and Pan Oceania get to work together as a fun sort of fluff piece. It's definitely a bit of an eyebrow raiser to see Guilangs and Tigers in the same list as Nisses and Fusiliers, so you're getting some of the optimal things from both factions munched in there, and of course don't forget about that Bulleteer Armbot. One of the most undercosted remotes in the game, for sure. But will it change in N4? We're not sure. Let's go and have a look at the updates to O12, in particular Star Marder. One huge eyebrow raiser here is that the Kappa Hacker costs like 12 points. So either hacking is weaker now, and it doesn't seem like it's weaker based on the bat rep they came up with, like Oblivion being thrown around and stuff, or the submachine is absolutely crap now. I mean, if they've made it like submachine is -6 to hit outside of 8 inches or something, I doubt they have, but that could be an explanation as to why it's not good. But still, if hacking still has something like assisted fire or controlled jump, if it still has good support wear, 12 points is just a steal. It's just a total bargain, which is just crazy. The Crushers, Naval Demolition Special Team. Again, you've got your NWI shock kind of person, mimetism being nice. This does seem like an expensive model though. I'm not 100% sure what the role is. It doesn't look like a specialist, but again, we don't know what the new missions are going to be like. It's hard for me to give you guys a really good comment on it. I believe this is the combat jump version that we saw in the bat rep. Blue Coats, a bit of a pop culture reference, obviously. Bit of a funny looking guy. I mean, I don't particularly like the look of the model. Some of you guys really do like the look of the model. Your biometric visor wasn't particularly useful in N3. Maybe it will be buffed in N4. Discover, kind of handy. Plus bonus of that, but he's willpower 13. Okay, that goes up to 16, I guess. Plus 3. Natural Born Warrior in CC20, I think he'll probably still lose to anything that's just naturally CC23, so you don't really want to get him to a lot of close combats. And in terms of his guns, I think it just matters as to what sort of link teams he can join. So since he can join them, we'll have a look at that in a minute. Bronzes, I think, is the heavy infantry. We all sort of raised our eyebrows at BTS 5. Is that a mistake, or are they changing it so that BTS is no longer multiples of 3? I'm not sure of the answer to that. It may have already been explained, though, in the chat, so you guys may know better than me on that one. Looks like your basic heavy infantry model, but I can't see why you would prefer this over the Omega, for example, or even the Gamma. The total immunity is super interesting. We just don't know whether it's going to say exactly the same as it has in N3. If it's staying the same as N3, then you look at that and you go, well, running around the table, gunning things down with the Red Fury is pretty good if you're up against a faction with a lot of flash pulse bots, warcores, that kind of thing. So in that circumstance, yes, he is better than the Omega, but most of the time you're just going to want to be shooting their flash pulse bots and warcores and killing them rather than just ignoring them, right? So there is that. The biker, pretty cool looking biker. We don't know what the side bot will look like, but it seems like a decent bike. I mean, in the same way that the Aragoto with the the Spitfire is good, this guy will be good with the Red Fury. He doesn't seem super expensive. I love that he's got a little chain rifle in there with his Red Fury. Even got the bonus damage there. I don't see what's wrong with him. I think he seems pretty good. And the sidebot, he's got a light riot stopper. That could be really helpful. Peripheral synchronized, we don't know exactly what that means, but if it's very similar or the same as G-Synced, that's going to be really helpful. G-Servant, G-Synced. G-Synced is probably what I'm thinking of. Having the light riot stopper with him can make him really dangerous if you can make your opponent feel like they're up against a riot stopper and a chain rifle, or the riot stopper and the Red Fury. So definitely like this guy. Hopefully he makes his way into your O12 lists. Saladin. Here's where we get a little bit more controversial, because even though I like the idea of him being in O12, because they already have this precedent of having good lieutenants in the form of Ensign Cho and the Alpha, those guys are like A-class lieutenants. Bringing this guy in seems to fit with that, but they've weakened him. He's nowhere near as good as the Saladin in Haxslam, because he doesn't have Strategos level 3, which is his main draw. The thing about Saladin is that he shows up, he's worth his points because your Fides have a lot better time. Your forget the guy's name, Aljabal, just has a much better time deploying after their troopers do, and you get your impersonators in there, whereas O12 don't have that equivalent alpha striking unit. They don't have, your Ariadne Grunts or Delamis or impersonators, no specular killers, nothing like that. They just have to try and walk over there with their bike or their Crusher or their Omega or whatever it may be, the Sirius Trooper. So really he's just sitting back giving you Strategos level 1, whereas the Alpha is giving you Strategos level 2. And will the +1 command token be useful? I don't know if it will be for the points. So I think what you're better off doing, and again, haven't seen the full rules, haven't seen the full army lists, Seems like it'd be better running an Alpha. I mean, if this was just chucked straight into N3, wouldn't take him. The Alpha would be there for sure. So here's what Star Martyr looks like. Kappa Fire Team, definitely the way to go with that 12-point hacker. Amazing. Who can join the core link? Let's just have a quick look. So Bluecoats can. We looked at Bluecoats earlier. If that's going to be your point man, then yeah, your Red Fury at the front of that fire team seems like a good way to go. But will you have to take the Kappa heavy weapons, or can something else join Kappas? Bronzes can be any part of fire team. Bluecoats, no, they can't be part of Kappas. Santiago Knights can't. Shona can, but she's just got an SMG. Hector can't join the Kappas, and the Tiango can as well. So you can have a Tiango jammer in there, or Red Fury and a Bluecoat, and that's about the best a fire team can do. So you don't have this brutal Orc Trooper in the midst of the Fusiliers, like you can a White Company. It's hilarious that White Company can do that, and presumably NCA and Sectorials, etc. can't. I mean, Sphelorama can, though, with their Knight of Justice. Can achieve that kind of thing. Anyway, Tiango, a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, but still pretty good. Varangian Guards, you only get 2 of them, which is a little bit weaker than base 012. Let's talk about what we're not seeing here. You can't take Gangbusters, you can't take the Lynx, you can have Epsilons, you can't take the Gammas by the looks, you can't take the Omega. So I'm a little bit worried about Star Martyr. You're getting things that you don't particularly need or want. Hector and Andromeda are 2 of the worst characters from Steel Phalanx, and even with Hector joining a Link team, he's just so trash that you wouldn't really be excited about him being part of Star Martyr. Again, it's interesting, but he's not a powerful character. We don't know that. He could be changed in N4. We don't know, but at the moment, if this is just an N3 Sectorial, not particularly excited about it. Parvani in there, that's cool. I mean, they've got a lot of character, they've got a lot of fluff, they've got a lot of style points. I'm just not seeing any massively oppressive things, though. Even the Knight of Santiago going in there, I mean, he's pretty cool with his deflector, killer hacking device. I'm just not seeing anything that's really brutal and oppressive, and you kind of need brutal and oppressive stuff to keep up with other Sectorials out there, because there's McMurrow running around, and there's Shishkin running around, and Achilles, and Posthumans, and you kind of want to be able to keep up with stuff like that. Star Martyr may struggle, unless there's a lot about N4 that we still don't know about. Cool, alright, well that's Star Martyr. Let's have a look at Cosmoflot, the new higher tech Ariadna Sectorial, which I think looks pretty fun. The Cosmosoldat, there's a few dossiers of people here. So the Cosmosoldat is this new heavy infantry model, which apparently is hackable for Ariadna. He can't go in a big link team, I think he can duo. So the best you can get out of him is like this big APHMG with burst 5. The problem is, as soon as you compare him to the veteran Kazakh, you start to see all these little problems. Veteran Kazakh, Ballistic Skill 13, I believe this is a typo. I think Coney went on the forums and recently updated this guy, so he's got Ballistic Skill 13, thank you. But even then, imagine you're running this guy, and you're up against, I don't know, a Tanko missile launcher on a link team, and it's like 30 inches away, and you're attacking with this guy. Ballistic Skill 13, 5 dice up against Ballistic Skill 16 with 2 dice. As soon as something goes wrong, this guy will probably fold, because that missile launcher is going to crack him, and if he takes 2 wounds, he's a goner. You can't revive him. Whereas if he does do pretty well, maybe gets a wound or 2 on the Tanko, you know, the guy drops unconscious, gets revived later, and, you know, you've wasted an order or 2. So it's a huge risk to put him up in that situation. Whereas the veteran Kazakh in the Link team, it's more like 5 dice on 16s versus 2 dice on 13, so you've swapped the numbers around, and the veteran Kazakh attack is just going to do way better than this guy will on his own, whether he's in on the Cosmoflot Sectorial, or whether he's in vanilla. So I worry about him. I don't think that he looks particularly strong. The veteran Kazakh is taking his space really and eating his lunch. The Volkolak shock troopers look like sort of a Wolver long-range kind of trooper. It's always funny when you see an amazing close combat ability on a guy who's clearly meant to be sitting at the back with a missile launcher or an HMG and just blasting you from long range. The reason I kind of do like this guy a little bit, though, is that apparently on the link team list, what does it say about Vaulsc? Can be part of any fire team. Now that means that if you go back to the Vaulsc, he can probably go on some sort of Harris, and he can probably go on the core link team, which is hopefully going to be very cheap. And that, my friends, should allow him to be a little bit more useful, because if Total Immunity does the same thing that it used to, and you're in a full 5-man link team, you can push out, you can ignore the flash pulses for the time being, shoot at what you need to, and then clear up their flash pulses, and it's a lot easier. Whereas if he's going to be in a smaller Harris group, maybe that T2 rifle is going to go in there. Fizz 14 with grenades seems pretty strong. So I think people will get some usage out of him. I think people will find ways to play him. And if he's making that long-range push into enemy territory with the help of a couple of people he can link with, then the close combat ability is going to come into play. Zenit 7, that's this chick sniper, isn't it? Let's have a quick look at her. So she's got camouflage, no, she's got mimetism. She doesn't have marker state. If ballistic skill 12 is true, I don't think she's worth the points, even with all of these other abilities. BS 12 sniper by itself doesn't have double action rounds, no stun rounds, nothing like that. I mean, if it's the only sniper you can take, maybe you'll run her sometimes, but for those points, I kind of feel a bit sorry for her. There are so many other snipers in the game that you pay that amount for that are just a lot better. So let's come back to this. Vaulsc can be part of any fire team. William Wallace can join a fire team of Varangian Guard. That's pretty awesome. It's amazing that William Wallace is in there, because then you'll be able to convert a lot of your irregulars, like your War Corps. Presumably some of this stuff is irregular as well. Umandinos, they become regular. That's pretty cool. Like, William Wallace always was really good. Can he be your lieutenant in Cosmoflot? If he can't, that may change my opinion of him a little bit. We just don't 100% know, do we? Kazakh doctors can be part of a fire team of Rokots. Rokots, are they... yeah, they're the line infantry. I don't know how cheap they are. Their profile may have been spoiled. I can't remember. But a fire team of Rokots with a Kazakh doctor and one Vaulsc HMG, for example, should be pretty good. Or a Vaulsc missile launcher if they can take those. Can they take those? Missile launcher, there you go. And a chain bolt with +1 burst. So that seems pretty good. So far, I already like them more than Star Martyr. I think that's cool. Uxie has a great profile. I'm not seeing McMurray in there, but the Equip Mirage, that's pretty strong. Alexa McManus is fine. Tractor Mules and Dozers, you can have a really big list, although restricted to 15 people. Oh, man. So yeah, you could have a fire team core of Ranging Guards and William Wallace, or you can go the Rokots way, or you could have 2 groups, but again, if we're restricted to 15 people, you're probably going to only have 1 core. We don't know yet what this Polaris Bear Pod does, but the bear's looking pretty impressive. People are pretty excited about that. Oh, and you've got Caden Dunn there as well. Maybe you can back the Vaulsc up. Not that it needs that much backup. Maybe you just take Caden. Not 100% sure. So it seems like a pretty cool Sectorial. We just don't know what the other fire teams and Sectorials it's going to be up against. How long have I been talking for? About 45 minutes. By the way, these Buildings, we've managed to get them to TTS now, and they are amazing. They're really cool. Love the new mats. By the way, guys, for Bostria and Carlos Bostria and Helos, I know you guys watch the videos. Sorry if I've beaten down on you guys a little bit much with my criticisms. What I will say, though, is the new tags, they just look superb. I think I'll be buying like 2 of those Blue Wolves, even though they're terrible in the rules. Love to see some more Samaritan love. That's awesome. I believe this is the general release Kodali miniature. Looks amazing. This is, I guess, where Corvus Belli hardly ever let us down. I mean, with the rules, you can beat down on them all day long, but the miniatures and the character design is just top notch. This Jotun is a reference to the scene in Judge Dredd from back in the day when it was Stallone as Dredd, where they've got that big ABC warrior and he's like sitting under a pile of trash on the street and the cops coming down the street and he comes up and he's blasting them with his wrist gun, and obviously they've been inspired by that scene, as I was, and created this pose which I think looks amazing. So this kit here looks fantastic. What's that, Parvati? Yeah, she looks pretty cool. Very Kodali-esque, but she'll have her own stats, obviously. I got the Hattail. Finally got a Monstrucker model. Will he be as overpowered as he is in N4? They need to increase the cost of the cheapest version of his profile, and maybe making him available to like every vanilla sectorial is not the best bet. I'd be fine if he was just available for a couple of NA2 sectorials. But it's just sad that this guy, in the current state of N3, has replaced your Yuching doctors and has replaced Japano doctors, and sometimes I don't even bother taking a Sophatect, I just take a Monstrucker. This assassin guy looks super cool. And don't know what to make of the Hakaslam tag. It looks, the profile of it looks trash. Absolutely trash. Armor 6, 58 points. Yeah, I'm not seeing, I mean, you've got your basic HMG, doesn't have a multi-HMG. The AP Spitfire, for the same reason the Blue Wolf is not particularly good, I think this guy is going to be rubbish unless there are a lot of changes in N4 that we just don't know yet that will impact it. Yara Haddad. Again, the character design and models this company comes out with are just fantastic. You guys need to go out and buy as much of this stuff as you can. Cheer Killers, I love that. And the Cosmoflot guys that we've already seen, they just never disappoint with these character designs. Everything just looks spot on. I'm so excited to be collecting some of the stuff. So here's the Blue Wolf. This is my favorite. Even though the Blue Wolf is just utter garbage, it's just absolute trash, I might even buy like 2 of this guy. I'm thinking of like getting one and painting him up for my Yuching collection and running him against people who are less experienced, just fool around meme style games. And then my second one, I'll probably convert that and run it as a Sphinx. Even though the new Sphinx model is amazing as well, this guy looks like he's a Sphinx. Like, he's got that explosive close combat weapon on one hand, he's got the Spitfire and the Flamethrower on the other hand. That's exactly what you imagine the Sphinx to be. So I might do that, even though the Sphinx model itself looks really good, right? He looks way better than the old Sphinx, in my opinion. It looks fantastic. So, yeah, I'm going to have to be saving up some money and buying a lot of tags. The cutter, the previous cutter was amazing. This guy knocks it out of the park. Just superb. Corvus Belli, all is forgiven. We just want to put these models on our shelves and paint them. This model is going to be so much fun to paint. I'd almost want to collect some Varuna or something just to get this guy, all those flat surfaces for all that highlighting goodness and the reflectiveness fun. They've even got the Zeta coming out now. Look at that that ammo barrel there. It's super high-powered and overblown, but I mean that's exactly the kind of thing you want a model of. The helmet looks a bit dumb. It kind of reminds me of a Protectorate of Menoth from my War Machine days, but generally it's a good model. Oh man, you can't be mad at that, guys. You can't be mad at it. Alright, well, I've been talking for like 45 minutes. That has been my views of some of the new sectorials and the mechanics, but I'll say it again, guys. N4 is not coming out until the end of September, and there's a long way to go before then, so get your N3 games in, hang out with us in Discord. I'll be putting on a fun event for you guys over the next number of weeks. Look out for my sign-up video on Monday. But for now, hope you've enjoyed this lighthearted and casual, speculative discussion. We'll find out who really rules the roost in terms of the meta once Army Builder is out and we can start playing some games of N4.